The EU just passed a law that's forcing every AI company to rebuild their entire business, and most of them aren't ready. We're talking about the AI Act, and it's the first real teeth-bearing regulation that actually affects how companies train, deploy, and profit from AI. If you use any AI tool right now, this directly changes what you get access to and how safe it actually is. Let me break down what just happened, because this isn't just some boring policy thing happening in Brussels. This is the moment the Wild West of AI officially ends. For the last 3 or 4 years, AI companies have basically had a free pass. They trained models on whatever data they wanted. They deployed systems with minimal safety testing. They made billions in revenue while regulators were still trying to figure out what a neural network even is. OpenAI, Google, Meta, they all moved fast and broke things, and the only consequence was sometimes bad press. But that era is over. The EU AI Act, which just entered its enforcement phase, creates 4 risk categories for AI systems. At the bottom, minimal risk. That's your recommendation algorithms, your spell checkers. No rules, ship it. Then you've got limited risk. That's where most AI tools land. These need transparency. Users have to know they're talking to AI. Companies have to document how the model works. That alone is a huge shift because most companies have been deliberately vague about this stuff. Then you hit the high-risk tier. This is anything that could genuinely hurt someone. AI used in hiring, in credit decisions, in law enforcement, in education. High-risk systems need ongoing human oversight. They need bias testing. They need audit trails. They need to prove they won't discriminate. And they need to prove it before they ship, not after some lawsuit. And then there's the prohibited tier. Banned outright. Mass surveillance using facial recognition in public spaces, gone. Social credit systems, gone. Manipulative AI designed to trick kids or vulnerable people, gone. Some of this stuff should have been banned years ago, but at least it's finally law. Now here's where companies are actually panicking. Compliance costs money, and it slows down iteration. If you're OpenAI or Google, you've been moving at startup speed, ship fast, measure impact later. But if your AI system touches hiring or lending or healthcare, you now need dedicated compliance teams. You need documentation. You need testing. You need liability insurance. Some estimates put the compliance bill at hundreds of millions of dollars per company. And there's a bigger problem. Nobody actually knows how to audit a large language model for bias or safety in a way that holds up legally. The tests exist, but they're not standardized. There's no clear playbook. So companies are basically hiring consultants and lawyers and hoping they get it right. Because if they don't and someone sues, they're liable. Not just for damages, for the AI's decisions. That's a fundamentally different liability model than before. But here's the thing. The EU didn't do this to be mean. They did it because they watched the US and China build AI with basically no rules, and they realized that by the time America wakes up and writes its own regulation, it'll be too late. The EU is betting that if they set the standard now, everyone else will follow. And they're probably right. The UK is already drafting something similar. California's been working on AI bills. The UN is talking about it. This isn't just Europe anymore. This is the regulatory template for the world. For you as a user, this probably means a few things. First, some AI tools you love might disappear or get restricted in Europe. If a company can't figure out how to make their system compliant, they'll just geo-block European users rather than rebuild. Second, the AI tools that stick around will probably be more transparent. You'll actually know how your data is being used, because companies have to tell you now. Third, there will be fewer sketchy AI startups launching with zero safety consideration, because the liability is too high. But here's the contrarian take. This might actually slow down AI progress in the short term, but it'll make the AI that does ship more trustworthy. Right now, every AI company is racing to build the biggest model with the most training data, and safety is an afterthought. Regulation forces you to think about safety first, which means better products in the long run. The companies that figure out how to be compliant and innovative at the same time will win. The ones that fight, it will just get left behind. The other thing happening right now is that companies are starting to realize that training data is now a liability. If your model was trained on data you scraped without permission, or on copyrighted work, or on private information, regulators can now require you to prove you had the right to use it. This is why you're seeing lawsuits from artists and publishers right now. They know the window is closing for companies to keep using their work without permission. By next year, that won't fly anymore. So what does this mean for the future? I think we're about to see a split. The big companies, OpenAI, Google, Meta, Anthropic, they have the resources to go compliant. They'll hire the lawyers, build the audit systems, and keep shipping new models. But they'll probably move slower. The real innovation might come from smaller companies that focus specifically on building compliant, interpretable AI from the ground up. And a lot of the sketchy stuff, deepfakes designed to manipulate, AI trained on stolen data, systems with zero transparency, that's going to get pushed underground or just won't exist anymore. The EU AI Act is the first real test of whether democracies can regulate AI without crushing innovation or letting it run completely wild. If it works, it becomes the template. If it fails, you'll see a backlash and a push for lighter rules. But I think it's going to work because the companies will adapt. They'll grumble about compliance costs, but they'll adapt because the alternative is losing access to the European market, which is huge. This is honestly one of the biggest moments for AI in the last few years, and it's getting way less attention than it deserves. If you want to actually understand how AI is changing, not just the hype, but the real regulatory and business shifts, subscribe. I break down one of these every few days, and this is the kind of stuff that actually shapes what AI tools you'll have access to next year.